Hello and welcome to Speak Up, the channel where we help you learn English fast and speak English confidently. I'm Ryan, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today on this exciting journey toward mastering the art of real-life English communication. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or have been with us for a while, we truly appreciate your support. Our mission here is to help you bypass the endless drill of grammar exercises and embrace more natural, effective methods to improve your English fluency. We know that a lot of traditional learning techniques can feel overwhelming, especially when you're trying to understand native English speakers or prepare for daily English conversation. So today we're diving into a subject that could transform the way you learn English by shifting your focus away from spending hours on grammar drills and instead investing your time in strategies that empower you to speak English without hesitation. And to our new friends who are just joining, thank you for choosing to listen, and please hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We're excited to help you build not only your vocabulary and pronunciation, but also the confidence to truly express yourself in English.
Hi everyone, I'm Priya, and I'm equally excited to be here with you on Speak Up. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of our new listeners, and a heartfelt thank you to our loyal subscribers who continue to support us. Today, we're embarking on a journey that could redefine your approach to learning English. Imagine for a moment spending countless hours memorizing endless grammar rules, only to find that you're still hesitant when it comes to real-life conversations. That's the struggle many English learners face, and it's why we're here to reveal a better way. We'll discuss why focusing too much on grammar might be holding you back from speaking English confidently and understanding native speakers. Instead, we'll explore how immersing yourself in daily conversations, using interactive techniques, and even learning English through stories can lead to improved fluency much faster. Our goal is to empower you to speak English naturally and without fear, whether you're preparing for job interviews, casual chats, or even traveling abroad. So, as we dive into today's topic, why you're wasting time on grammar? Do this instead. Remember that every minute you invest in the right practice can bring you one step closer to thinking in English effortlessly.
Building on what Priya just shared, let's dig a little deeper into what we're discussing today. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that the secret to mastering English lies in memorizing every grammatical rule, but that approach can actually slow you down rather than speed up your progress. Today, we're challenging that conventional wisdom and exploring alternative techniques that truly boost your conversational skills. Imagine a learning process where you no longer feel stuck trying to recall complex grammar structures, but instead, you're actively engaging with the language every day. We're going to talk about methods like daily English conversation practice and shadowing techniques that can help you think in English without constantly translating in your head. With these strategies, you'll not only expand your vocabulary, but also build the confidence to speak in real-life situations, whether it's during a business meeting, a casual chat, or even a job interview. We're here to empower you with the tools to overcome that fear of speaking English, so you can finally say goodbye to the endless grammar drills and hello to a more dynamic, effective way of learning. And remember, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and join our growing community of learners who are committed to speaking English confidently.
Absolutely, Ryan. And to add to that, I want to emphasize how important it is to appreciate every step of your learning journey. When you focus solely on grammar, you might miss out on the practical, everyday applications of English that help you connect with others and truly express your ideas. Today, we're not just sharing tips. We're sharing a mindset shift. Our discussion will guide you to invest your time in activities that naturally enhance your listening skills, boost your vocabulary, and build a real-life understanding of how native speakers communicate. Think about using methods such as English listening practice and engaging in daily English conversations, which can be more effective than isolated grammar drills. We'll also touch upon how learning English with stories or even watching your favorite shows can be an entertaining yet powerful way to improve your fluency. For our longtime listeners, thank you so much for being a part of our journey and continuously inspiring us with your progress. And for those just starting out, we're here to support you every step of the way. So please hit that subscribe button and join our community. Today's episode, Why You're Wasting Time on Grammar, Do This Instead, is packed with insights that will help you overcome the fear of speaking English and truly speak English confidently, without being bogged down by the minutiae of grammar rules.
Many learners believe that mastering every single grammar rule is the key to fluency. But is that really true? When we think about our language journey, we often picture endless hours spent poring over textbooks and memorizing rules, all in the hopes of speaking English perfectly. However, this traditional approach can sometimes trap us in a cycle of overanalysis, where every mistake feels magnified and progress seems painstakingly slow. Imagine spending all your energy trying to get every comma and verb tense right, yet still struggling to hold a natural conversation. While it might feel like a necessary foundation, this fixation on perfect grammar can leave you feeling frustrated and disconnected from real-life English communication. Instead of breaking down complex rules in isolation, we should be asking ourselves if there's a more dynamic way to learn, one that lets us engage with the language in a fluid, natural manner while still keeping our grammar in check. It's time to step back and consider, is spending countless hours on these minutiae really the best use of your time if your goal is to speak English confidently and fluently?
Absolutely, Ryan. While grammar is important and there's value in understanding its structure, over-focusing on it can actually slow you down when it comes to engaging in real-life English conversations. I've seen many learners get caught in the trap of perfecting every sentence structure, only to find that when they're faced with a spontaneous conversation, all those rigid rules just seem to fall apart. This overemphasis can prevent you from experiencing English in its most practical form, where context, tone, and flow matter more than perfect punctuation or flawlessly mastered tenses. You might be following tips like English Grammar Made Easy, or trying hard to fix English grammar mistakes by revisiting every detail repeatedly. But this process can sometimes lead to a paralyzing fear of making mistakes. It's essential to realize that making errors is part of the journey. Instead of trying to master every rule before you start speaking, you could benefit more from real-life practice and immersing yourself in conversations where the language comes alive, gradually helping you master English tenses naturally as you progress.
Let's delve a bit deeper into these common pitfalls that many of us encounter. One major issue is that the relentless focus on grammar creates an environment where every little error becomes a major setback. We start noticing even the tiniest mistakes in our speech, and before we know it, we're constantly correcting ourselves rather than enjoying the conversation. This obsession can be particularly frustrating because, despite hours of study, you might still feel stuck in a loop of common English mistakes. It's like running on a treadmill. You're putting in the effort, but not really moving forward in terms of natural language use. The irony is that while many resources are marketed under titles like English Grammar Made Easy, they often leave you with a theoretical understanding without the practical skills needed to engage confidently in daily conversations. When your mind is too busy fixating on rules, it can hinder the development of a natural feel for the language. Instead of advancing your fluency, you might find yourself repeatedly returning to the same challenges, unable to break free from that grammatical trap.
Exactly, Ryan. And this is where the idea of excessive grammar study hindering progress becomes so clear. When you focus too much on fixing every grammar mistake or trying to master English tenses before you can actually use them, you risk missing out on the beauty of real communication. It's like trying to learn to ride a bike by reading the manual without ever actually getting on the bike. Instead, embracing a more balanced approach, where you learn grammar as you interact with native speakers and practice daily conversations, can be much more effective. Think of it as integrating practical methods like English listening practice and engaging in regular, real-life dialogues where you allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from them naturally. This method not only helps you absorb the language intuitively, but also builds the confidence to speak freely without constantly worrying about every grammatical nuance. So, while it's important to know the basics, shifting your focus from rigid grammar drills to dynamic, practical usage can really transform your learning experience and accelerate your progress towards fluent, confident English communication.
Now, let's talk about shifting our focus away from endless grammar drills. Instead of drowning in rules and punctuation exercises, why not concentrate on strategies that build your English speaking and listening skills? I truly believe that the secret to improving your English fluency lies in immersing yourself in the language, engaging in activities that mirror real-life English conversations. Think about it. Instead of spending hours on theory, you can practice English listening practice and even enjoy daily English conversations with friends, colleagues, or language partners. When you expose yourself to natural dialogue, you start to pick up nuances, idioms, and expressions that textbooks just can't teach. This approach encourages you to think in English, which is a game changer. And remember, you can also practice on your own with English conversation practice alone. This means recording your thoughts, playing them back, and refining your speech without the fear of making mistakes in front of others. By shifting your focus, you're not just learning rules, but you're actively using the language in a way that truly prepares you for real-life communication.
Absolutely, Ryan. That's such an empowering way to look at language learning. Instead of getting stuck in grammar drills, focusing on interactive methods can transform how quickly and naturally you pick up English. I love the idea of integrating activities that are both fun and educational. For instance, imagine setting aside time every day for immersive English conversation practice alone. You might choose a topic, speak about it for a few minutes, and then review your recording to spot areas for improvement. It's a hands-on approach that helps build confidence because you're not worried about getting every grammar rule right. You're simply getting comfortable with the flow of the language. And if you're someone who enjoys narratives, why not try to learn English with stories? Reading or listening to engaging stories, whether from books or even podcasts, can introduce you to new vocabulary and idiomatic expressions in context. Similarly, watching movies or binging on a favorite series on Netflix can be a delightful way to absorb natural conversation patterns. These methods aren't just enjoyable. They're practical ways to boost your fluency while having fun along the way.
Exactly, Priya. When we make these methods a regular part of our routine, we begin to see real progress. Let's say you decide to integrate English conversation practice alone into your daily schedule. This simple habit can have a profound impact. Every time you speak out loud, you're training your brain to process and produce language naturally, rather than getting tangled in the grammar rules you've memorized. And it's not just about speaking, listening is just as critical. Engaging in daily English conversations, even if it's through virtual meetups or casual chats with native speakers, exposes you to real-life English conversations that teach you the rhythm and melody of the language. This balanced approach, where you focus on both listening and speaking, truly accelerates your journey to fluent communication. You'll notice that over time, the phrases and expressions start to come to you effortlessly, making you more confident in every interaction. It's this kind of practical immersion that sets the foundation for long-term language success.
Right on, Ryan. To add to that, there's so much value in embracing these alternative approaches because they align perfectly with the way our brains naturally learn a language. When you practice real-life English conversations, you're not just learning vocabulary or grammar in isolation. You're learning how to express yourself, respond to others, and understand the cultural context behind words and phrases. For those days when you feel like switching up your routine, consider diving into methods like Learn English with Movies Netflix. Watching films not only entertains you, but also sharpens your ear for different accents and conversational styles, making it easier to adapt to various speaking situations. And for anyone looking to improve English fluency, these engaging methods are the perfect antidote to the monotonous cycle of traditional study. They encourage you to see English as a living, breathing language, one that you interact with every day. So, whether you're practicing alone or joining a group discussion, every bit of exposure helps you build a robust and practical command of English, setting you up for success in any real-world conversation.
Now let's talk about immersion and natural learning techniques. If you really want to sound like a native speaker, it's essential to train your brain to think directly in English instead of constantly translating from your native language. When you're stuck translating, you slow down your ability to respond quickly and naturally in conversation. One effective method I've seen work wonders is using the shadowing technique for fluency. By mimicking native speakers in real time, you begin to absorb the rhythm, intonation, and natural flow of the language. I once worked with a learner who was always pausing to convert each word into his native tongue. Once he embraced regular English listening practice and made a habit of shadowing short segments from his favorite podcasts, he started learning how to think in English instead. This shift not only helped him understand how to stop translating in his head, but also boosted his confidence during everyday conversations. Immersing yourself in the language in this way transforms your learning process from a laborious task into an enjoyable, organic experience.
Building on what Ryan just said, immersing yourself in English really is a game changer. When you allow yourself to engage directly with the language, whether through conversations, watching videos, or listening to podcasts, you begin to internalize the nuances naturally. I remember a friend who struggled with constant self-translation. She decided to try the shadowing technique for fluency by repeating lines from her favorite movies as she listened. Over time, she noticed that she was no longer mentally converting every sentence. Instead, she was starting to think in English on her own. This approach, combined with consistent English listening practice, helped her learn how to stop translating in her head and become more spontaneous in her speech. It's all about creating an environment where English is the primary medium of thought. When you immerse yourself in real-life English through such techniques, you not only boost your fluency, but also gain the confidence to express your ideas more naturally and effectively.
Let me share another perspective on this immersion strategy. I once met a student who felt overwhelmed by grammar drills and translation exercises. He decided to shift his focus and instead dedicated a portion of his day solely to immersion practices. He began by using English listening practice tools, listening to news clips, podcasts, and even songs in English, without pausing to translate. This method, paired with regular shadowing exercises, gradually helped him understand how to think in English. Rather than translating each phrase, he started processing language patterns directly in English. This change not only improved his fluency, but also made his interactions in real-life English conversations feel more effortless. The process wasn't instantaneous, but over weeks of consistent practice, he truly learned how to stop translating in his head. His experience is a great reminder that immersion is about engaging with the language continuously until it becomes a natural part of your thought process.
To wrap up this segment, I want to emphasize that the key to mastering English isn't just about studying its structure. It's about living the language. When you immerse yourself daily, you learn how to think in English and build a natural connection with it. Techniques like the shadowing method for fluency and regular English listening practice are practical tools that help you break free from the habit of translating in your head. Consistency is crucial. Even dedicating a small amount of time each day to these immersive practices can yield remarkable improvements. Over time, you'll find that your responses become quicker and more instinctive, enabling you to engage in genuine, real-life English conversations with ease. Embrace these methods, and you'll discover that the more you immerse yourself, the closer you get to achieving a natural, confident command of the language. This is the ultimate goal of learning: communicating effectively and effortlessly in any situation.
Now, let's talk about how you can bring English into your daily life in a way that feels natural and effortless. One of the biggest mistakes learners make is treating English like a subject they have to study instead of a language they have to live. But think about this. What if improving your English fluency didn't require hours of memorization, but rather small, consistent habits that fit right into your routine? Instead of drilling grammar rules, imagine spending 10 minutes using one of the best apps to learn English, where you're actively building vocabulary and improving pronunciation. Or what if, while commuting or cooking, you listen to an English podcast for learning? These simple changes don't just help with learning, they completely shift your mindset from studying English to living English. And the best part? There are so many free English learning resources available today that can help you practice without even realizing it. Whether you're using an English vocabulary builder app or simply chatting with a friend, these small, everyday actions add up to big results.
Exactly. And when you start seeing English as a part of your daily life rather than just something you study, progress feels much faster. One of the most effective English speaking tips is to practice a little every day, even if it's just by thinking in English or talking to yourself. Some people hesitate to speak because they don't have a partner. But guess what? English conversation practice alone is still incredibly powerful. You can describe what you're doing, talk about your plans for the day, or even repeat phrases you hear in TV shows or movies. Speaking of which, watching content in English, whether it's YouTube videos, Netflix shows, or even short clips on social media, helps you absorb natural sentence structures and pronunciation without feeling like you're studying. And don't forget about the best apps to learn English. Many of them have interactive exercises that help you improve speaking, listening, and even writing in just a few minutes a day. The key is to be consistent and make English a normal part of your life rather than a separate task you need to complete.
And it's not just about using the right tools. It's about using them in a way that makes sense for you. For example, if you struggle with remembering new words, using an English vocabulary builder daily can help reinforce what you learn. Try picking 5 new words each day and making sentences with them. And if you ever feel nervous speaking, remember that listening plays a huge role in improving fluency. One of the best ways to overcome hesitation is by listening to real-life English conversations, whether it's a podcast, an audiobook, or even live interviews. This helps you get used to the natural flow of the language and pick up pronunciation patterns effortlessly. Plus, if you're more introverted, there are plenty of free English learning resources that allow you to practice without pressure. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to keep improving a little every day.
And that's the mindset shift that makes all the difference. Every small step you take, whether it's using an English vocabulary builder, listening to an English podcast for learning, or just reading a few sentences in English each day, brings you closer to fluency. The best learners aren't necessarily the ones who study the hardest, but the ones who engage with English regularly in a fun and meaningful way. It's why using the best apps to learn English or watching content you actually enjoy makes the process more natural. And let's not forget, practice doesn't always mean speaking with others. If you're hesitant, start with English conversation practice alone. Narrate your day, repeat lines from a movie, or shadow a podcast. The more you expose yourself to real spoken English, the more confident you'll become. So, instead of worrying about being perfect, focus on making English a part of your daily routine. Trust me, the results will surprise you.
Now, let's talk about something that holds a lot of English learners back: fear. A lot of us hesitate to speak English because we're afraid of making mistakes. We worry about mispronouncing words, using the wrong grammar, or sounding unnatural. But let me ask you this. When a child learns to speak, do they start with perfect sentences? Of course not. They make mistakes, but they keep going, and that's exactly how you improve. The truth is, if you want to speak English confidently, you have to be okay with making mistakes. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And the best way to overcome fear of speaking English is to put yourself in real situations where you have to use the language. It could be something as simple as ordering food in English, introducing yourself to a stranger, or even practicing in front of a mirror. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to communicate. And trust me, most people won't even notice small mistakes as long as you speak with confidence.
Exactly. And one of the biggest mindset shifts you can make is to focus on conversation rather than perfect grammar. If you spend all your time worrying about tenses and sentence structure, you'll hesitate and second-guess yourself. But if you focus on getting your message across, you'll build confidence much faster. A great way to practice is to simulate real-life situations, like speaking in English for job interviews or casual daily conversations. If you're preparing for a professional setting, focus on business English vocabulary so you can express yourself clearly. And if you're shy, don't worry. There are ways to practice even if you don't have a partner. One trick is to record yourself speaking on different topics. When you listen back, you'll notice areas for improvement, but you'll also realize that you sound much better than you think. Another strategy is to practice shadowing. Listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately. This helps you improve pronunciation, rhythm, and confidence all at once.
That's such a great point, Priya. And let's not forget, one of the most effective ways to speak English without hesitation is to get comfortable with making mistakes in a safe environment. You can do this by practicing with a language partner, joining an English-speaking group, or even using apps that connect you with native speakers. Another simple but powerful tip is to reframe your mindset. Instead of thinking, "What if I make a mistake?" Start thinking, "What if I communicate successfully?" Because that's the real goal. Communication, not perfection. If you focus on getting your point across, rather than saying every word perfectly, you'll feel much more relaxed and natural. And for those who feel nervous in professional settings, try preparing key phrases and responses in advance. That way, when you're in a real situation, whether it's a job interview or a business meeting, you'll already have the confidence to express yourself clearly.
Absolutely. And let's not forget that confidence is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. If you struggle with fear, start small. Have a 2-minute conversation in English every day. Even if you're just talking to yourself, it helps. And if you're an introvert, you can still improve by using tools like English podcasts for learning or watching interviews in English. The more you expose yourself to natural conversations, the more comfortable you'll become. And remember, every fluent speaker you admire once struggled too. The difference is, they kept going despite the fear. So don't let mistakes hold you back. Take that first step, and soon you'll be speaking English with confidence without even thinking about it.
Now let's talk about something really important: how to actually implement these strategies in your daily life. Because knowing what to do is one thing, but actually doing it is what makes the difference. So here's what I suggest. Start with a simple daily routine. Spend at least 10 minutes on English listening exercises, whether that's a podcast, an audiobook, or even a YouTube video. Then, focus on building your vocabulary. Maybe keep a small notebook where you write down new words and try using them in sentences. And most importantly, speak. Find ways to engage in real-life English conversations, whether that's talking to a friend, practicing with a language partner, or even speaking to yourself in the mirror. The key is consistency. If you can do this every day, even for a short time, you'll start noticing major improvements in how naturally you use English.
Exactly, Ryan. And if you're wondering how to make this even more practical, think about how English fits into your real life. For example, if you're planning a trip, try using English for traveling. Practice ordering food, asking for directions, or even making small talk with locals. If you work in a professional environment, focus on English for professionals. Learn key phrases you can use in emails, meetings, or presentations. And if you want to make learning more engaging, use English storytelling techniques. Tell short stories about your day in English, or even write a short journal entry. The more personal and relevant the practice is, the more effective it will be. So, think about where you can naturally use English in your daily life and start applying it right away.
That's such a great point, Priya. And for those learning English at home, there are so many ways to stay engaged. Watch movies in English with subtitles, read articles on topics that interest you, or even switch your phone's language to English. The idea is to surround yourself with English as much as possible, so your brain gets used to it naturally. And remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Even small improvements every day will add up over time. So, challenge yourself. Try speaking in English for at least 5 minutes a day. Listen to a podcast while commuting, or read something new in English before bed. The more you make English a part of your daily life, the faster you'll see results.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, here's something to think about. What's one small step you can take today to improve your English? Maybe it's watching a short video and repeating what you hear. Maybe it's writing down 3 new words and using them in a sentence, or maybe it's just saying one sentence out loud in English. Whatever it is, start now. And don't stop. Keep practicing. Keep challenging yourself, and soon English will feel completely natural to you. And if you found today's discussion helpful, make sure to subscribe because we have even more exciting topics coming up. Next time, we'll be talking about a powerful technique that can help you think in English faster. So stay tuned